Alright guys, we are going to be Truggifying the ARRMA Typhon V4, and I want to walk through some of the steps. In the first video we talked about some of the parts you need, and I've got the part numbers down below this video. But I want to pretty much start out with how do we take off these hubs and how do we switch these out with the Creighton hubs, Hexes, and also the Axle Stubs. And one of the first things you're going to have to do is you're going to have to get off this little hex. That's the red part. And a lot of people don't realize that the hex is actually held in place because there is a small hex nut inside the axle stem that you've got to get out. And so what you're going to want to do in the case of this particular Typhon, this could change, it's a 2.5 millimeter. You're going to want to check to see what size that is, and you want to basically remove this little grub screw that is inside of your axle stub. And here it is. Now, I want to make a few notes on this that are pretty important. I've had a little bit of challenge with this. Not sure, come on, focus. If it doesn't, this has blue Loctite on it. It's a small grub screw, and I used originally the hexes that came with the ARRMA package of the Typhon, and they worked 3 times. So I was able to get 2 of these off in the back, and actually 2 of them in the front, and then 1 of them in the back, and then it stripped. And that's because a lot of these type that I still use sometimes, particularly the ones that are cheaper or more of your standard, do not work very well over a long haul. I bought these tools that are a little better quality, and they are much harder metal, so the ends do not get worn off. And once those ends start getting worn off, you're going to see you'll start stripping these, and if you strip it, it's very hard to get this off. You pretty much have to leave it alone, and that's actually what happened with one of the rear hubs. One of these actually from the Typhon, I pretty much just have to leave it alone. I can really never get this off. I don't really need to, but you don't want to do that. So you want to basically make sure that you have good tools, and probably the stuff that you got with your vehicle is not going to cut it. You're going to need something a little better. But once you get that off, the next thing you want to do, there is a tiny little pin in here. And that pin, if you see here, is not held in place by anything. Once you take off that little grub screw, it's going to be very easy for that pin to just slide right out. So that you just push through, and the pin will start coming out on the other side. Hopefully you can see that right there. And then you just pull the pin out. That's it. And once you put the pin, pull the pin out, then the hex comes out. And once the hex comes out, you now have your original hex out. And then what's left is that axle stub right there. Now, that axle stub is probably going to stay in there until you unscrew these little ball screws or ball nuts. I'm not sure what you call them. Now, these are the things that are actually behind these little red caps. And so once you unscrew the red caps and you get those off, which I generally do, it's easier, and you pull those off, then you are going to be able to then go in and take off and unscrew these little ball ends. Now, there is a little bitty, really important rubber type washer that's in there, and you want to be very careful. And as you get that out, you want to inspect which direction it goes in, and basically the ball will fit in the section that allows it to roll pretty smoothly across that ball end. So it's going to be that area that just fits perfectly on that ball end, and that goes in here. And all together, I'll just show you what this looks like. The red caps that you see that look like this that go here, these basically, this piece fits in here like this, and then the ball end fits like this. Now, I had these come loose on my Creighton for quite a while. I could never figure out, where is that? How do you tighten these things when they start coming off? There's a tiny little hex right there that you can use that you use a hex wrench to tighten up. And once you do, you get in there and you can screw and unscrew it. And that's basically what we're going to be doing. We're going to be taking this off. And once you do, you'll be able to put in the new ones. And the new ones are going to be from the, well, you can use the ARRMA Creighton ones, but sometimes you'll buy the whole hub assembly and it'll come with all of them. And so, like in my case, I'm just going to end up using the whole new one, but you could certainly reuse these. Now, of special importance to also note when you're doing this, there is a little clip on the bottom one. You don't want to lose that. So you want to use that and reuse that when you put in the new one. So that's basically the procedure. And there is another little thing held on here with a hex screw and a nut. That's your, I guess, your steering arm. That's going to go on the side where you have this anodized red bracket. This is the one that goes on this side, so that bracket goes towards the rear. And I would recommend just getting pictures of everything if you're going to do the swap out. But once you get the front off, that's when you're going to look at your new pieces and put on the Creighton pieces. And again, if you're just joining this series and you're not sure what we're doing, we're Trugifying the ARRMA Typhon, and we're replacing the original hub axle spindles or axle ends, and also the hexes with those from an ARRMA Creighton to get the extra width so we can Trugify it and use some wider tires. These are 2.8-inch rims on Badlands MX-28s. So that's the process, and I'm going to be putting on these guys now. And I bought these from eBay for about 20 bucks. I got both of them. Oh, and also the rears. I think it was a pretty dang good deal. And I got the bearings as well. Everything was put together. They came just like this. So now all I have to do is just screw these guys on. And that extra little bit, this is what we're talking about, that extra little bit of pop out that the Creighton has is what, actually look at that. That's what's going to allow us to run the small size rims and not hit our hubs. That extra bit. But as I said in the other video, that extra bit requires longer axle ends or axle stems, and it requires us to use the Creighton hexes. So once you do all that, you want to do it front and rear. I asked Commander Stig about that, and he said yes. So you want to use front and rear. So this is what the rear looks like. Pretty simple. I mean, there's essentially one screw nut that goes in there, a screw and a nut, and then there's just this arm here that goes in here, and that's it. Pretty simple stuff. So that's the process to Trugify. We're going to get it done, and then I'll hopefully get some videos of the process being done and what it looks like when it's all finished. Hope you guys do it, and I'll have the part numbers down below, so if you want to, you can Trugify your Typhon. And just as a quick comparison here, here's the original, sort of Typhon type tire, and here's the Trugify tire. Now you'll notice they're 2.8-inch tires, tire rims, so the rims are actually smaller than the originals. And I'll note this is a 3S tire, but the original Typhon tire is basically the same. And if you are, not liking the stock guitars, the 3S tire is pretty good on the 3S Typhon. But this is what you're going to replace it with, and as you can see, I mean, it's a good 2.5 times wider, and it definitely is not much taller, so you don't really affect your gearing. You might want to adjust the gearing eventually if you have heat issues, but it's pretty close. So that's the deal. We're going to do it, and I'll let you guys know the results, and hopefully if you want to do it, this video is helpful for you. Thanks, and if you like the video or the content, hit like and subscribe.